Anybody who has known me for any period of time knows that I struggle with attention. If there is a ton of stuff happening in the room, I have to laser focus on you or that person in that moment. I have to just like focus on everything I have to block out those distractions. You may not be like that, that's fine. But I know that I've always struggled with that. I find myself in the yard, and my wife and I laugh about this all the time. Or I laugh, maybe she doesn't, I don't know. Anyway, we're working on something and I move over here and I'm working on something else, and she's like, hey, what happened to what you were doing over here? I do the same thing in life. I get it, I do that. My personality probably lends way to more spontaneity. The problem is the attention gets lost. I may see a cover of a book and I just all of a sudden find myself, I'm upset, it's upside down, sorry. I'll be looking through the book and I'll be, well, that's kind of cool. And then I'll see something else and then, well, that's kind of cool. Oh, yeah. And then I'll go over here and and then I do over here and I'm reading an article and doing that kind of stuff. Well, I know I do it, but here's the problem. When our attention deficit moves into the spiritual realm, into our relationship with the Lord, that's when it becomes a problem. We're actually talking about spiritual ADD on today's episode about who I would become. So just like my problem with being able to stay focused on one thing at one time, it works its way into our Christian walk as well. I remember going into Planet Fitness years ago. Now, obviously, you can tell, that I work out. I know it's pretty obvious, but sarcasm, by the way. Anyway, I go into Planet Fitness, so much color, so much awesome things like machines, purple, yellow. It's just this overload. My mind is going nuts on all the cool things that are in there. Before I even could use the machines or even do that, I had to check all of them out. I had to look around and see the pictures and see how all those things look. I walk around to the bench press and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is a new machine. It's purple. Look at the weights you can do. I move around to every machine and I do that. Now here's what I was kind of processing. What if this person, like me, walks into a gym at any moment and they walk from machine to machine and they do one rep? Like, I've been thinking about that. They go to the bench press and they get the weights on there, and I don't even know if you do it like this anyway. I don't even know. But they do one and then they're done with that machine and they move on to another machine. And then what if they go over to the curls and they do one? And they pull off of that machine, they go to a different machine, they do the whatever that one is, and anyway, you get the point. They do one rep and they move on to another. Elliptical, one stride, treadmill, one stride, and they go on. I mean, think about that, how crazy. I almost said stupid for all the little kids that are watching. I didn't say stupid, but think about the crazy things, the crazy way that looks to a video camera, to the managers, to everything. This one person is walking through and doing one rep. But I wonder how many of us realize that we do that in our Christian walk. I mean, we are doing one rep on many things in our lives. And let me paint that picture. Okay, so you go to church on Sunday. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you're a part of a church family. You walk into church and you listen to a 30-minute sermon. Maybe you do a Bible study that same day. You get together with your friends and you do a study. Maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you do another Bible study, not maybe every day, but maybe once or twice a week. And then you listen to podcasts, which is edifying, that's encouraging. And then you do another group, and maybe you listen to other sermons through the internet, or you watch videos on your social media feed or Instagram TV, and you do all of these things. Do you kind of see it now? All of a sudden, that crazy thing that we saw in the gym there is happening in our lives, and we don't even realize how crazy we look. We can't stay focused on one thing, that was two, on one thing throughout the week. It says in Psalms, I will meditate on your law. Some verses say precepts day and night, and I think about that. We're not talking about meditating on Genesis to Revelation. We're not talking about that every single day and night you're going to meditate on that law. What if we actually meditated on what was presented to us that week and we actually stayed with that thing Instead of having this little spiritual ADD, we run all over the place and we never let the Holy Spirit actually have his way on one particular subject. I've said this before, but if the sermon is on something, how many of us have gone home and actually meditated on that sermon and actually prayed and let the Holy Spirit, hey, you know what? If I struggle in this one area that the sermon talked about or the pastor was speaking on, if I struggle with that, Holy Spirit, would you reveal that? Would you show that to me? Would you help me be able to put that into practice on Monday? And would you work in my life before I move on to something else? Would you work in my life and show me what you want to teach me through that thing? It's just like the gym. Everybody who is anybody, even this guy who doesn't work out, knows that you have to do repetition in order to work out that muscle. In the same way, it comes in our walk with Christ. We have to have repetition on certain subjects and allow them to penetrate every area of our lives. And yet we don't do it. We don't sit on these things and really let these things, as I like to call it, marinate, because I like food, which is also visible in the dad bod. But anyway, that's another subject. I'm going to cry now. But anyway, moving on, the spiritual ADD that we do, it has to stop in our lives. So here's what I want you to do. Is each and every week. We just had a sermon at church on Sunday. It's Tuesday. Would you just spend some time reflecting upon what the pastor taught on? Maybe you have a Bible study tonight or tomorrow night. Before you move on to the next podcast, the next sermon, the next video, the next thing that you do, would you just stay on that subject? Would you just stay there and allow God to work in that moment? And then before you do the next thing, pray and ask him how he could change your life. Ask him what needs to be rid in your life, what needs to change to become more like him. We're trying to edify, we're trying to equip each and every one of the church. That's the point of this whole thing. So I hope that you will do this next week. And don't have this spiritual ADD that we're talking about. Have this focus and let God really do the change in your life that he wants to do. Hey, like, share, comment. Hopefully you will engage with us. We as always want to edify. We want to equip the church because we love the Lord above all. We're growing in our walk with Christ. Please help us get the word out. We'll talk to you soon.